one thing I want to mention is there is this huge discourse in terms of AI development, and it is whether it is better to go open source or closed source. A lot of the AI tools are open source, meaning anyone can download it and fine tune it for themselves and use it for themselves. It's an open box. But the best ones, for example, ChatGPT and Sora, are all closed source, developed by OpenAI, ironically named OpenAI, because, well, Elon Musk, the co-founder of OpenAI, named it OpenAI because he wanted it to be open source, but now it's closed source. So what do you think about it? What do you think about the pros and cons of open source AI and closed source AI?
Elon Musk once said about addressing the issue of OpenAI, and he once said, I believe a long time ago, he said, "Fate loves irony, but not hypocrisy." Yeah, and he is like basically suggesting that OpenAI is being hypocrite. But from my point of view, it's like a Pandora's box, right? You're collecting a lot of data and you have to keep it. You're then guard of the box. It's not like, okay, I want to be open and I'm just releasing all this data back to the public, and that will create chaos. So what I think for now OpenAI is doing is, we still don't know what that front line is. Where is that line? So we are like just doing and then keep watching and then pushing the step forward for one bit and then see how society is reacting to it. And I still believe them probably within their team, they already achieved AGI somehow, but they're still holding it back because they are afraid. Yeah. That's how they're testing the water of the whole society.
Yes. Well, Yiqiu, I want to ask you this because, well, Elon Musk once said that the best way for us to develop AI is that to make sure everyone has AI, and that means open source. So there is some sort of a danger in his eye that AI is concentrated in these big companies. For example, Google's big blunder of generating a black Elon Musk, it's held by a big company. So when the balance of power is very out of proportion, it creates a certain problem. So do you think open source can solve that problem?
Well, I just read, Elon Musk sued OpenAI, and I just read the paper. He said, OpenAI is becoming a branch company for Google, another monopoly problems. But for me, I'm thinking about, I'm rooted for open source, and here's why. First of all, I'm thinking that, the three main drivers of artificial intelligence is first, computing power, and secondly, algorithms, and thirdly, data. If we want to develop safe and smarter AI, we have to open source to, data is kind of the fossil oils for the AI large language models. We have to combine the global power to do some regulations while using the global data to develop these models and under the guidelines. So I think open source is very important. And secondly, I'm thinking that I read the essays written by Microsoft Research Institute. It's like 156 pages of paper, but I read it anyway. And it mainly talks about the capabilities of GPT-4. For example, it has a multimodal capabilities. It can, use the human interfaces, human-machine interfaces. It can solve kind of the math problems. But at the end of the conclusion, the paper just said, the reason why we use 156 pages of paper to talk about what AI can do instead of discussing why AI is capable of doing that is because that the mechanism behind GPT-4 and the similar large language models is only inventors don't know about it. There are several sayings about the mechanism, but none of them are for sure. So we have to combine the global power to further research, and with the rapid development, rapid growth about large language models, such issues have never been more emergent. So I don't think it is a good idea to make the one big company to be the monopoly of such field. I think it's quite dangerous. Yeah.
Jim, what do you think? Because some would counter that by saying that being closed source gives a faster speed for AI development. For example, look at OpenAI, and makes it a little bit more safe because it won't fall into the hands of bad actors. Like, how do you see both sides of the argument?
It's definitely a complicated and tricky thing, and there's advantages to either approach. But I think for me, I listened to a podcast lately that was done by Bill Gates, and he was actually interviewing Sam Altman. And it was really interesting to hear these two, kind of guys from different eras of the computing and AI revolution talking to each other. And Bill was asking Sam a lot of questions about these exact same questions. Is it even fair or wise for so much power to be concentrated in the hands of OpenAI? And the answer that Sam gave, which I thought was a pretty good one, was these are tools that we really don't understand, and they are very powerful. And for instance, in the past, in the world, when there have been similarly, disruptive or new technologies, for instance, the invention of nuclear weapons, there were things like the Atomic Energy Agency, where all these different organizations around the world and private organizations and governments got together and agreed on a set of standards for how these new unprecedented tools should be used. And from my side, I guess I would probably be on the side maybe a bit more in the direction of closed source, only because these tools are so powerful and are so dangerous in the wrong hands. And so I don't necessarily believe that all the power and all the resources should be concentrated in the hands of one company or one location. I think definitely they should be more spread out in different places with different needs. But at the same time, I think it is probably important that there is some global cooperation to make sure that these systems are working in our favor, and that as a human civilization, that ultimately they're working for us and not against us. And so definitely a tricky one to sort out, but I hope that there's going to be some cooperation on this, because it's very important.
Yes, you mentioned the Atomic Energy Agency, and that echoes one of the views of the Minister of Technology from Serbia, whom I interviewed. She also said that all countries should jointly establish something like the IAEA to regulate this technology, because it's so powerful. Yeah. It's almost like nuclear energy. Yeah. It has the potential power to do a lot of harm.
Yeah,
right?
Totally a game changer.
Yes, totally a game changer. So when we look towards the future, how do you think it could change our society? And before we get into that, I also posted this question for our robot friend, Xiaohui.